Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talking Landscape Photography. I'm quite conscious it's been a little while. First reason for that is I personally have been on an incredible journey running photo expeditions through Iceland and Svalbard, and then a pretty amazing personal journey through Western and Central Turkey. And so a bit of readjusting coming back. A month of 24 hours of daylight is not something my circadian rhythm is used to, so that's taken a fair bit of adjusting coming back to the heart of Tassie. And Luke, bless his heart, is on a big journey to become a father, so that's really his focus right now. So I that leaves me with a bit of freedom, actually, in a way. Not that I need it to think, geez, who would I really deeply personally like to reconnect with and use, I guess this platform that Luke and I created over the years as a wonderful forum. And the first person that came to mind, I actually asked him quite a while ago about this, is my good friend Roger Fishman. And Roger has been on the show before. He's done a wonderful photo expose on his time and his deep personal and long-standing relationship with Greenland, who he's actually just come back from again, literally this week, where he has put himself in an incredible position to document and film Greenland from the air, almost around the entire thing, as few people, I don't know if anyone on Earth has even done. So that's a great story in itself. But when I thought about what I reached out to Roger about earlier is a lot more personal, a lot more intimate. So this show has now, I guess, reached a capacity where it can be a forum for people to tell stories, and it's sort of beyond just an ego boosting sort of look at me, look at me. It's kind of like, well, how can we use this platform as something a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper, to get us reflecting on, I guess, the responsibility or invitation we have as image makers to tell stories that aren't easy, that aren't about pretty things, that can be confronting, that are not easy to face. And so I reached out to Roger quite a while ago now about something very intimate and personal to him. And I just offered the show as a forum. If he chose to, or whenever he felt drawn to, or if the dust settled enough that it felt like a positive thing to do, to share the story both for himself and to the world, that he'd be welcome to do so. And we have now reached that time. So Roger is an incredible image maker. He's a wonderful adventurer. He's an activist in his own way. He's a filmmaker. And amongst many things that stand out to me about who Roger is, he's probably one of the most authentic human beings I've met in the world, whose heart is very present with what he does and who he is as a person. And we have a huge parallel in the way we choose to walk the earth and the way we choose to use the purposefulness that we have at our fingertips as image makers. And as that regard, we're kind of brothers from another mother, as it were. But in all sensitivity to the show, it's his Roger's story to tell, not mine. And I've just said, look, this is an unlimited time, space, and forum for however you feel drawn to. And I'll pop in now and again when it feels like it's appropriate to do. But I also want to leave a lot of grace for Roger to tell his story and the way, shape, form, and manner that he chooses to. So, welcome to you, my dear friend.
Well, thank you so much for the generous and very kind introduction. And it's been wonderful having our friendship for so long and being connected well beyond just photography. That's what really means the most is the connection. So again, thank you and thank you for this invitation to come on. As as a photographers, to me, it's about how we choose to see the world. Now we are making a decision with every picture that we take. How do we feel and how do we want to see the world and how do we want to share our own language with others of how we feel and what we experience. And I've always felt that what I do is a real gift to my heart because I get to go explore the world and see amazing places and meet amazing people. But it's really about how do I choose to see the world, and I want to encourage people to see the world their way, right? We have a lot of influences in life, external and internal, and you know my world changed dramatically, as did a lot of others, on January 7th, 2025. As uh, I used to live in the Pacific Palisades, which is next to Santa Monica in Los Angeles. And on that day, actually, I woke up and had coffee with some friend, and we just were talking, and all of a sudden the wind was like out of control. Things were flying everywhere, and I thought, oh, that's never seen that before. And I had just gotten back from a trip with my son from overseas, so I was really tired. But I went to a Zoom call, and during the Zoom call, like all my windows were closed so I could focus. And I get a text from someone that says, "Are you evacuating?" And I write back, I'm on a Zoom call. What are you talking about?" And they said, "Well, you have to evacuate." And I wrote back again, like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Are you serious?" And they're like, "Are you serious?" So I said to the people I was on the phone call with, I said, "I'm terribly sorry, I need to get off. Someone told me I need to evacuate." So we ended the call, and I looked out my front door looking east, and it was a beautiful blue sky. It was just perfect, calm, just magical. I thought, well, that's odd. Okay. So I started to go through my house, and I was going to go upstairs and just honestly take a nap because I was so jet lagged. And I said, no, I'm going to look out the back. And I looked at the back, and I just remember thinking it's all over. Like this is the end, which is an odd thought to have at any time in your life, especially when you live in a safe neighborhood, quiet neighborhood. You live in Los Angeles, and you think, well, everything will be okay, except it wasn't. My house was vibrating because planes were coming overhead, dropping fire retardant, dropping water everywhere it could, and you could literally just feel your home and your life and yourself shaking. And even with that, where you're literally shaking from the sky down and inside your soul out, you think, okay, it's all over, and I'll be back in 5 days, right? And no one ever will, I believe, think, oh, an entire community is going to burn down immediately. It's just you can't process that because it doesn't happen, except it does and it did. So, I was actually like quite calm. I got my dog, I got in the car, and then my car key, the electric car key didn't work. Uh, and I'm not the most organized person with backup car keys. And I thought, well, I may have to walk out of here. And then I said, let me just take one more look. I found a car key, and I got out and I evacuated, and I went and I found my son who was leaving school and going to be with his mother, and I evacuated them. But what you experienced was absolute panic. And so you're going from a perfectly sunny day, beautiful, calm day, to your entire life and your entire community, an entire way of being. And for some people, it was 50, 60 years, maybe longer living there. There's a lady who lived across the street from me. She was 103. She lived there for like 60 or 70 years. And yes, she got rescued and fortunately is safe. But in almost an instant, it disappears. And that night, I talked to a friend of mine who runs the fire department operations. And I was like, so, like, what's going to happen? Like, what can you do? And he said, there's nothing we can do. We have to let it burn. Now, just those words, we have to let it burn, may not seem that powerful or that horrible internally because no one's been through it. But when you hear those words, you realize it's all over, genuinely. And it's not just it's all over like things burn. As I mentioned to you previously, each home is a book. It's a historical book of everyone's lives. Might be their first home where they raised their family, where their kids, they were born and they grew up there. It's where they had birthday parties, they had holidays, where they had happiness, with school, or they lost a sporting event, or they had a pizza party. It's all your life being written, sentence by sentence, page by page, chapter by chapter. And that's what a home is. And in some cases, your child's drawings are in there, their trophies, photographs of your family's history, your genealogy, whatever may, everything, if you think about it, everything that we have is almost always in one place. It's supposed to be a safe place, right? It's the home. And then you realize it's all gone. And all those stories, all those chapters, all those memories, they literally burn in an instant. And so it's hard to sort of even process what it's like to have, in my case, like my grandfather's cash register, which his father had in their own store, that weighed probably 100 and some odd pounds, 40 some odd kilos, uh, literally made out of bronze. I've carried it around for decades and decades around the country and around the world. It just melted. It went up to, I can't do the Celsius conversion, but they say it might have gone up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything's gone. Not only my family's history, my grandfather, my father and mother, but everyone, right? You think everyone was like primarily a small community. Clearly, it's unsettling to say the least, painful for sure. You wonder what you could have done differently, if anything. But the truth is, uh, it's a massive destruction to your soul because the memories, the things that people go, things don't matter, they're triggers, they're reminders of your life story. It's not the stuff that you can replace. That's painful for a different reason. But the items you forget that will never be there to remind you, like my grandfather's pocket watch. It had no financial value, but he rubbed it with his thumb every day, and he put a little indentation in the back. That meant the world to me. I was going to give it to my son, who's named after him. It's gone, and it's gone for everybody. And now you have kids who, they just got it through COVID, and now they have no school, they have no home. It's traumatic for kids. People are looking for stability. So, for me, um, as soon as I could, I got back to kind of try to find things, which was impossible because it was all gone. And I thought, well, how do I create memories so we can not relive the pain, but so we can remember what was as best as possible? What can I do that I do, right, to make a difference? So um, I got up in a helicopter as soon as I could to document it. And I thought, how do I do this in a respectful way, a healthy and safe way? Because there, even from the sky, you could smell the metal and the wood and everything. Uh, and then how do I make it available to everybody who want to have a history for themselves? So I've done, I think it was 5 or 6 trips of Altadena, Malibu, and the Palisades. And so we discussed and what I'd like to share is what those, not just what the images are, but hopefully for the people who are watching or going to listen to this, to help them also know, one, how to prepare for themselves, right? In a way of what matters that they really do want to keep. But it's also a great reminder for me of like what matters. And what matters in my life is safe and alive, right? It's my son, right? My dog, myself, the people I know and that I love. And as brutal as it is losing my history, my book, it's I forced myself, and I've been forced to think about how do I keep it alive? How do I keep my grandfather alive, my grandmother, my parents? Uh, and I found some ways. I've also found that there's some gifts that you get that the community really helped each other. Um, and in one case, it's the one story I'll share, not to belabor anything, but there was a little piece of plastic toy I had since I was a little kid, and my mother and essentially gave to me. And she gave it to me. She said, "Look, I know it's not what you want for the holidays. I know your friends are getting cameras, they're getting skis, they're going on trips." She goes, "But we can't afford anything. This is what we have." It was a little plastic toy that came with actually some bars of soap. So it was a free toy. And it was wrapped in newspaper. Because my mother said, I don't believe in wasting paper and buying paper that you're going to throw out. And I believe in being, actually, even back then, good for the environment. And she looked at me and I looked at the toy and she said, "Look, son, I want you to understand something. Never equate gifts with love. Never equate gifts with love. The way you know I love you," because she was a single mom. My parents were already divorced. My father was already dead at 40. He was at 46 when he died. But my mother said, "Look, the way you know I love you is we have a roof over our head, you have clothes on your back, and you have food in your stomach because I go to work 6 days a week for you. That's how you know I love you." Um, so that little plastic toy, I somehow kept with me for decades and decades. I don't know how. I wasn't even conscious of it, but I kept it. And when my son was born, um, even before he was one, I would tell him the same story at the holiday. And by the time he turned 14, I said, "Son, do you want me to tell you the story this year? Or do you want to tell me the story?" And he says, "No, I'll tell you the story." So he took the toy and he would tell me the story, what my mother said, his grandmother. And then when he was 15, he did it. When he was 16, he did it. And we just happened to be in Italy. And it just happened to be Christmas and Hanukkah on the same day. Hanukkah started on the 25th. I'm Jewish. And Christmas, obviously, is the 25th. And I said to him, "We're in Italy. I brought it with me. Do you want me to tell the story you want?" He goes, "I'll tell it to you." So, of course, I brought it back home. And of course, it burned in the fire. So 2 days after the fire, I went online. I'm like, I wonder if I can find another one of those toys. Everything's available online. And I found one. And I was sort of like shocked because I wanted to keep the story going with my son. And so I went up to him and I said, "Hey, Jack, uh, I found this and I was wondering if you're okay if I get it." And he looked at me and he said, "Dad, uh, I've already researched it and I found one as well. And I didn't want you to think I was trying to take away any of the history you had with grandma. And I wanted to be sensitive and respectful to your feelings. Um, but yeah, I found one too." And I just started crying because I realized how empathetic and compassionate, how deeply uh, my son was connected to me in our story that we've been telling for almost 17 years. And the fact that he was so proactive about it, like it just moved me. And so we got it and we have it. And it's a new story now. It's no longer just the story of my grandmother, his grandmother, giving it to me and me sharing it with him. He's now made it a multi-generational story that he has helped create. The reason I say it, and I'm sorry for being so long-winded, is not only because I'm in love with my son, and I am, it's because out of literally the ashes, out of brutal experiences, beautiful stories and beautiful gifts happen. And there are a lot more, which I won't go into now. But what I thought I would do is at least give everyone a sense of some of the photographs so they can see and feel um, what happened, and also hopefully have everyone continue to do what I hope they're doing, which is to have not only gratitude for their daily life, not only keep records of what's important and protect those things, but just always tell the people that they love them as often as possible. Uh, it's, I always have done that, but this just increased sort of the intensity and the reminder of what I need to go do to be both present and connected. So I'm going to share uh, my screen and hopefully, Paul, you'll tell me if you can see this.
Yeah, right on.
So a friend of mine, Wendy Hudnall, I asked her to come out just to take some photographs at one point because I wanted to make sure I had memories that were of me in my home because I needed to feel that connection, but I need to see myself there. Otherwise, it would just be more of a detached perspective. So Wendy was very kind to come out and take pictures of me and actually me and my dog. And this is my front of my house. That was what people entered. And when I took all these photos, not this one in particular, but of my first trip and my second trip, I remember coming home at night and looking at them for the first time. And it was hour, another hour, and it became 9:30 at night. And I was like, I need a bottle of wine. And I don't drink very often. I was like, I need something to drink. I opened it up and I just looked at the images again. And as happened in this image, I just sobbed. I just sobbed. I touched on very lightly or quickly. My father died at 46 of his fourth heart attack. Um, my parents were already divorced for 4 years, and I didn't really know him that well. But when he died, he just died. I never saw him again. And I only had a few things from him, and they all were in this house, and they're all gone. And the fire is also a sudden death, and it's brutal. And it just so happens in the last 18 months, my mother died. One of my best friends, like a brother, died. Um, one of my very important relationship ended. I had a health issue for about 4 or 5 months. Uh, then my house burned down. And then I moved into the guest house of my ex-wife, who I had helped evacuate with my son. And then I found my current place. That's a pretty, I won't say everything I'm thinking. It's a pretty uh, intense 18 months. And I have tremendous gratitude for my life. Why? Because I had an amazing mother. Because my friend was an amazing brother. Because the woman that our relationship ended was an amazing, and is an amazing woman. Because my health issue got better because of amazing people and someone who made important recommendations to me. Uh, the truth is, my ex and I have a very good relationship. So it was very comfortable and made very good sense. And then I got this new place because I have a great real estate agent who was very helpful to me and allowed me to keep calling him and sending him emails and texting him. My point is, so many good things happen, and I'm thankful for all of them. Even when the hard things happen, my life is always a reminder of the good things. And so when I look at this picture, it's brutal, but I also think, oh, I had that life. I created that life. I created that with people I cared about. I had family and friends in there. So all of it still exists. The question is, how do I keep those good memories alive? So each of these are reminders like this. I'm just, that's it. It's not easy to lift rubble that weighs hundreds, if not thousands of pounds, searching for stuff you don't know. Like you're looking literally in your house while I'm standing there, and I'm like, okay, was my living room here? My bedroom was there. If it collapsed straight down, where would those items be? Like you're trying to play like brutal fire logistics, and you go like, could the wind have blown something? Should I go over this place? Do I lift up this metal piece? Can I shovel this up? Like, where would things be? Oh, that's where my bathroom was upstairs, but right next to it was my grandfather's pocket watch on the side, and I was desperate to find it. I did not find it. Uh, and you're just living and walking and standing in this rubble, and you're trying to remember not what was, but where things might be. Uh, it's like a brutal Rubik's Cube, and one that you can't figure out, and uh, you don't get to play really. You kind of think you are, but you're just going through the motions because at the end of the day, with all your effort, there's a 99.9% chance everything's gone. So, and what I'm wearing there is actually what I walked out with. That's all I owned when I left. That I should say in my camera bag. I happened to take my camera bag with me because I thought I would photograph what happened while it was going on. And when I saw the chaos, I mean, it was traffic was people were going in every direction, speeding, trying to get home to their pets, their animals, their loved ones. It was just chaos. So when I saw that, I thought, Roger, as much as you want to capture this, for you need to get out of here. So what I'm wearing in that camera bag was all I got out. Uh, but I got out, which is the most important part. And I got out, and like I said, my son's safe, my dog's safe, and everyone in the community was safe. So I'm gonna keep going to some more images that sort of just give everyone a sense of Israel. This is a vibrant community. This is Palisades, like I said, Altadena, Malibu. What's interesting at some level, what survives is the palm trees survived. The other thing that survived, and I noticed this because I did these helicopter trips, all our plastic garbage cans survived. Not a joke. They didn't melt. They were strewn all over. So a lot of grass survived, not all of it. A lot of trees survived. But where people lived was just decimated. There's really not much to say with all these. There was no stopping the fire. It wasn't really a fire at those speeds. It was just annihilation. It was literally as if a bomb went off, as if nothing existed. And that's what's also really hard to understand is you go back to these communities, it's as if they were never there. So people say, oh, you're going to rebuild. And the answer is yes, physically people can rebuild in some cases, although there's a lot of political issues going on, the government. But you're rebuilding a physical structure. You can't rebuild those memories the same way. It's impossible. And so, as you can see, what I see from the sky, almost everything in its path was taken out. On the top center, you can see a sports field, green area. And that was grass, and that was fine. And if you look above it on the top center, there's a blue area, which is a high school football field. That was fine. But if you look at the homes, if you don't see color on a rooftop, You're looking at burned out homes, which are like 97% of what you're looking at right now, maybe even higher. And just like everybody else, we all have communities, so it's all gone. My son flew over with me at one point. He's like, Dad, our pizza place is gone. Our local, all the schools are gone, elementary schools, high schools, churches, grocery store, everything is just gone like that. And so this is an Altadena. I'm assuming this was a car rental place. I don't know actually. But to look down into the burned out graveyard of cars, yeah, there's Paul, I wish there was something I could say that would be like illuminating or meaningful. I just say like this, don't assume anything is already thought through and planned. Like if I go on an expedition, I got to plan everything out. As citizens in parts of the world, we think, oh, well, the government's taking care of it. The truth is, the government has a lot going on. Some are really competent, some are not, and there's a lot of changing environments, and there's so many dynamics, right? You've got water issues, politic issues, funding issues, fire departments not being funded, often in our case, um, different dynamics that are taking shape. And so the question is, how does one know they're safe? We as human beings trust each other. We trust to take care of ourselves, each other, in the community, and we trust that our governments will do that. Truth is, I do believe most governments do the best they can, but the demands are so intense that it's, I think, impossible to take care of everyone's safety. So this is in the Palisades right near the ocean. All these burnt out, some are burnt out fire trucks. And truthfully, we didn't have enough fire equipment. We didn't have enough water. Uh, a lot of our equipment was being repaired. Truth is, our fire department's been underfunded for 20 plus years, maybe 17 years. We're, I believe, double digit below where we should be. So, as you know, in life, you have to invest. And most people don't want to invest in what they think might happen that might be negative because they have other priorities. It might happen. Let's not go do it. But that's what investing is. You try to mitigate risk by thinking strategically. And it's difficult because there's a lot of demands. But after this experience, I'd say everyone should go the extra step, the extra mile, and make sure that they're aware of what's going on in their environment and what the safety options are.
Oh wow. It almost looks like snow, Roger, just the ash.
Yeah. And to breathe that in, which I did myself for a few different days.
That was my
Uh,
next question, like we're seeing the visual and you're giving us a powerful window into the emotional element to it, but it's hard to imagine the visceral element of it, the smell and the texture of it and the that kind of aspect. I feel like you're about to go into that. It must have been just emanating all the way through it.
yeah. But I dug into my home of what remained, and I bought equipment for it. But the truth is, I inhaled a lot of things I shouldn't have inhaled. And as much as I do love electric vehicles, when you see lithium batteries melted like silver lakes, silver rivers running through a driveway,
Oh,
and you see metal just literally has melted away, and you're working through your stuff. I had a hardcore deep cough. I was quite sick for a couple months after I dug through it. And when you flew over it, you had that coming into your face and you were smelling it. Uh, you could smell not only fire, but you could almost smell the death of everything. And that's really what you are. You're taking the death of everything that was beneath you. And you're also taking in all the chemicals and all the history and all the everything. I often ask myself, I don't know why, philosophically, as a fire was going through, because to me, fire is an energy source. What was the fire saying when it greeted, and I say greeted, and it entered someone's home? What did it say to the belongings and the history of people? Did it say anything? Did it say, tough, I'm here, I'm taking everything? Or was there a brief, and this is philosophical, I accept, discussion between the fire and the history and the memories and the possessions of the family saying, like, why us? Like, my children, my grandparents, like my family, you're taking all of it. And you can just imagine the fire just saying, you're my fuel and you will feed me. And you could hear like the ancestors in the history talking, saying, but wait a second, we have love here, we have kindness, we have energy, we have all of our stories here. And then you could just almost wonder like there's this like dance and fight where one's trying to protect what was there and one's saying, oh no, 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 you're mine now. The fire saying, you will feed me because I am hungry. And you can hear the human side saying, but this is life. And I think this is, to me, I don't know why it's such a powerful thought because I think about what happened when the fire met my grandfather, what happened when the fire met my life. Was it just greedy and needy, didn't care? Uh, and it's true for everybody, for everybody. And so I think what it also teaches me is what matters in life. And we know what matters. But when everything goes away brutally like that, and life happens like this, right? We're all on the razor's edge, no matter where we are, no matter how healthy we are. I learned it when my father died suddenly. I've learned it throughout my life when family and friends have died. I've learned it now with the fire. This is a cycle and it's unexpected and it's painful, but it's also how do we deal with it? And I think, a lot of my belief systems and faith and strength come from my mother. She was an amazing woman, an orphan twice, who had to raise three kids. I was the youngest and figure out how do you deal with a, basically a 13-year-old boy while you're out cleaning people's teeth as a dental hygienist. How do you raise a boy when you're a woman from that generation? How do you raise and pay bills when you're making $2 an hour? Who's going to look out for my son and turn him into a good human being that can take care of himself? And I give my mother credit for everything. She taught me how to walk through the metaphorical fire when I was a kid. So when this literal fire happened, I've got to be honest, I was prepared for it. Uh, I was prepared because I know what matters. And it goes back to that little plastic toy. Uh, you never measure love by gifts that you're given physically, material-wise. It's really about what people do for and with each other to take care of each other. So my house burned down, and everyone's home and life burned down. But I know what matters and how I see the world, how you see the world, how all of us who love photography, and we love it for a range of reasons, but it's a way that we choose to see the world, want to create the world, we want to share the world. Whether the world is like that for everyone or not isn't the point. The point is each of us have a way to feel, each of us our own depth, our own pain, our own joys, our own desires, our own anxieties, and it's how we choose to see and share the world. And so the reason I chose to share the world this way is this is literal. And I don't shoot literal, but I did want to capture memories in their own way so people could also look into their own books, their own chapters, and remember what was there, and give them something to hold on to, even if what you hold on to is a disaster. And again, if you look around, the trees are still standing. But the material things, which to me is the interesting part of this visual for me and a lot of these visuals, is the human-made stuff is all gone. It's all gone. But nature, the trees, you can see grass lives. Like that dichotomy, it's not a duality, that dichotomy is fascinating.
Yeah, I agree.
Nature survived, but humanity and human stuff did not.
It,
So,
it's quite a powerful concept, Roger, to sit with that nature has shown its robustness and its preparedness and its ability to surrender and survive through such an extreme event that the human way of living has not.
yeah.
You know, we're not living in a sphere where we're prepared, as you were saying, or ready to surrender or fluidly capable of recognizing that nature has its own cycles and rhythms, and fire is one of them. And I think I mentioned in the show, when I look out the window right now of my house, I can see hundreds of these old trees, and they're all dead, and they were all still standing from a massive fire that roared through here in a way that you almost couldn't call the fire either. It was so fast and so powerful that people couldn't even escape it at full speed in a car, you know. It just destroyed all of where I live and the whole area around me. And when I think of, I wasn't here at the time, but the evidence of it is still so present, and yet nature's just standing in its kind of, it's almost its own beauty, and that resilience of it is, and the evidence of that resilience is still so present, and it's intermingled with new life, and they're standing side by side. The evidence of these huge trees' capacity to remain standing, 50, 60 years after the event, and growing alongside the new, and that slow, emergence and acceptance and rhythm, I guess, that's gone on so far beyond any human life scale. And it's, nature is, I feel like, I don't want to put this, it's been here for so much longer than us, and it has its own rhythm and scale and time and level of ebb and flow and surrender, and our tiny little pocket of lifespan that we've been present. We're so traumatized by these events that are actually really quite natural sometimes. The floods, the volcanoes, the earthquakes, the fires, like those have been happening for millions and millions, hundreds of millions of years, and it's actually a natural part of the Earth cycle. Different conversation that we began about where this particular event sits in the scheme of that. But my point is, the more removed we are from nature and live a life removed from it, the more less prepared we are to deal with the trauma, as it were, of when it actually happens. Um, and
That's a great point.
I wonder how, in millennia past, different cultures have moved and navigated through those fears, or accepted it, or not fought against it, or seen it as unnatural. And we have these big conversations in Tasmania about our national parks. Should we, because since we've boxed them up and sealed them away and prevented fires from happening, for instance, have we actually taken away the natural balance of the ecosystem? I went down the Grand Canyon in America, and they recognized the fact that with that ecosystem, with all the different rivers that have been dammed up for so many decades, they've taken away the natural flood cycle of that ecosystem. And they were experimenting, in this case, literally when I was on it. And that they tried to recreate a natural flood in recognition that they'd shut down and incapacitated nature from doing its natural flow of flood, which is actually part of its landscape. So again, you and I are a little bit philosophical in terms of the way we approach the world and our relationship with nature, and I think it's partly because we both spend a lot of time in it. We don't necessarily live in a completely cut off world from that. And geez, what a brutal sort of recognition, that nature is the ultimate power, really, as much as we think we're in control and we're in command and we're the boss, and like no other species on Earth ever before us, not even, even a blink of an eye close, that we've almost had this arrogance in a way, or lack of recognition or understanding of the broader picture of the sphere that we're living in, the ecosystem that we're living in, the millions of years of natural rhythms and cycles around us that we've sort of semi-isolated ourselves from,
Yeah.
and almost like refusing to acknowledge in a lot of ways. And now we're facing a time in the world's history and as a species that we can no longer afford to ignore that anymore, or the cost of ignoring it is getting higher and higher, and it's going to become more of part of our lives. And I guess, I wanted to acknowledge your courage here. Like it's there's probably mixed reasons for wanting to record this and document this. It would be sickening at the same time as giving me some sense of purpose when I was feeling lost. I guess, maybe you could speak a little bit more to what was going through your mind and what motivated you to keep doing this at the time.
It's a great question. I found it to be therapeutic. It made it not only more real, but it made me uh, more accepting. It's such a shock to the system that it was therapy. In the beginning, I got frozen when I came home, like I said, and then I would sob. But it's always teaching me lessons. And it's also like I look at this picture and I can see my house on the photograph. And I would think that there aren't many people who have a house burned down and have photographed it from the sky. And so when I think about that, I go, oh, you know what? I'm really fortunate because I had the moment to live there. I have the ability to get a helicopter and go over there. Oh, I have the ability to share this with people. And so I find all these positives. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but I can find a lot of positives coming out of this experience. Now, maybe I talk myself into it. I don't know. But I will say the fact that you and I are having this discussion on a Zoom call, you're in Tasmania, I'm in Los Angeles. The truth is, we've never met in person, even. Um, we're sharing this. We share friends in different parts of the world. I think what a miracle it all is. Like,
Yeah,
I have no control of anything, but I do have the ability to say, oh, now I have gratitude for it, but really take in what a miracle and what a gift it is just to even be having this chat with you, to being thankful for the life I created that got me to where this fire took place, and to have the flexibility and freedom to be where I am now. And that doesn't mean to negate anything. I always say to people, if you give me a choice of going back to my other life or being thankful for what I have, I like, let me go back to my other life and be thankful. Um,
yeah, of course.
but so many good things have come out of this, so many good things and so many new people. And so I look at this again, and that's my house. If right, I can see it, it's right there. Uh, I go, oh, I actually I created that life. I lived in a great community and everyone is safe. And you know what? This will get figured out. This too shall pass. And to your point, Paul, we're all here for not even a blink of the eye. And you made a comment when I want to touch on about, being disconnected from nature. We've got to remember we are nature. We're 70%, 65 to 70% water, each of us. Like every human being is
Yeah,
composed of the same essential elements, water and then bones, right? Molecules. That's what we weigh. We are no more than any other animal. We're life, we're nature, we're connected, we're all really one. And that's why I think when I look at this picture, I go, oh, there are the trees that are standing. Yes, a couple cars still exist, but the trees and the grass survived and all the human stuff left. It tells me we are connected to the trees and the grass and nature because we are the trees and the grass and nature. We become part of it, literally as well as metaphorically. Uh, so yes, you're looking at Malibu burnt out. You're looking at the coast. Imagine these were all beautiful homes. And now there's nothing but metal structures left.
Yeah, I've driven that road a few times myself, Roger. It doesn't really compute looking
Yeah.
at it.
It makes no sense to think that was man, beautiful homes. These are beautiful homes. These are people's lives. But again, people lived. And this one is interesting, we may have touched on before the call. You're looking at that green area, the tennis court. Well, that's synthetic material. That palm tree that you're looking at is actually a shadow. But you look at the homes, and the good news is the one at the bottom left survived. But the trees, if you look at all those trees that survived, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's miraculous.
Right? The trees, and you think about what it takes for a tree. A tree drinks us in, literally, right? We exhale. A tree inhales. And through photosynthesis, right? The process begins. And you think, wow, what a beautiful circle and cycle of life. So even in a picture of devastation, you go, oh my God, that is life. We are part of that. It is part of us. So I try to focus on what I can learn from an experience. So it stays with me in a healthy, productive way. And here you can see all these people who are out there working right away. Like God bless them. I mean, that's a tough environment to be working in
Oh yeah.
and actually unhealthy and unsafe. And this, they're trying to protect landslides. There was a big rainstorm, not long after. And so after I went up one time and photographed it, I came back after a rainstorm, and a house that had been up on the hill and was safe after the rainstorm collapsed on the house below it, and just they both were destroyed. So like one week, everyone is these certain homes had survived the fire, and the next week, because of the rain, the massive rain and the mudslide, they collapsed on each other. So there's a lot of ramifications. And then this is just, you're seeing the yards and lives of people. This you're looking at, you go, well, what's that? It's Malibu. They were all homes on those studs,
Wow, they literally just ash.
all ash everywhere. And that's for the people who went back right away to work in that area. It's quite dangerous. And that's what I was breathing in myself. And it's brutal. And this is, I think it was month 4 after the fires, and they're starting to spray the ground and the land, both hopefully to keep it clean or cleaner and to neutralize a lot of what's in the ground, but also to settle it so eventually you can safely build on it.
Could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit more? That's really beyond my scope of understanding. The dangers, the chemical reactants, the transformation of the area, the safety elements that, I've never personally experienced, what's involved in bringing it back to life or making it a safe environment, or what are the aspects and combinations of chemicals and things that have happened that, that actually make it unsafe beyond the fire itself.
Well, as a big question. I'm only going to touch on a little piece of it. But if anyone looks in their house right now and thinks, okay, I'm going to take everything I own, everything right now, computers, my car, and it's all going to just melt. Just everything you own. I ask everyone just to stop, look around their house, look at their lives, everything that you own, everything just melts or turns to ash. So the ash pretty much stays in the air, and if you walk on it, it comes up in the air and you breathe it in. So now you're breathing a lot of plastics, a lot of carbon material, a lot of plastics in the air. But they're also going into the ground, and melted metal of all types, computers, lithium batteries, I mean, your silverware, whatever it is, melts and goes into the ground, and it goes into the water system.
Uh,
So, I mean, I made a mistake. It was like couple weeks afterwards. I brought my dog up. I'm in love with my dog named Gemma. I was walking her, and she remembered everything. It was interesting. She literally remembered like where to walk. But at one point, she started trying to eat some grass, and someone happened to be on the street, a former neighbor, and said, "No, no, don't let your dog eat the grass." And they said, "Look, it's just got all the metals and plastics, and also you realize everything is contaminated, everything, and it's seeping into the ground that you will grow grass and food in. It's seeping into the ground where the water will go in, take those chemicals and carry it into the system, and it's there beyond years." And you can't just say, "We'll take out the topsoil," because it goes deep into the ground. So there's, I think, a lot on the scientists, but there's a lot of discussion about long-term health considerations. So you people will do the best they can, but the future comes with risk. And it's just true for anywhere. The stuff that humans make when they burn, go into the air and go into the ground, come back
So
to haunt the humans that had the stuff that was made by humans to give us a better life. It's everything's connected and everything's a cycle.
what are they actually spraying there, Roger?
I don't know the exact chemical, so I can't answer that question. Um, but the intention is to essentially cover the ground so one, things don't keep floating up in the air, other
Uh,
plastic, sort of seal things off.
yeah, okay.
And also, hopefully, if you seal it off, you might be able to start being able to build on it. But I'm definitely not an expert in this area. In fact, I'm not an expert in any area, to be honest. I'm a student. And the only thing I know for 100% is I know very little about almost everything. And I don't say that facetiously. I say that because it's true. Uh,
What was it? Could you share a little statistically the scale of it, the number of homes, people,
sure.
the volume of people, had to be moved, like just to give people more of a sense of the scale?
I think in my community, there were 6,000 homes that were lost. Um, 7 months later, there's only 100 permits that have been issued to build. I'd have to go back and double check the numbers because I don't have Malibu plus Altadena plus the Palisades all measured, but you're talking about 10, 20, 30,000 people all just having to find new places to live. I have to double check the numbers for you. And then what you have is you have a supply and demand issue on housing, right? And then you have prices going up, and then you have to deal, in my case, like everyone else, insurance companies and governmental issues. And so there's all these unintended consequences that come with it. Uh, and for some people, like I said, they've lived there their whole lives. I mean, I lived in my place for 3.5 years, but all my stuff was there. But imagine the people who've lived there for one generation, two generation, passed it on to their kids. Um, and they all had to find a new place to live. So some people are living with other people, some people are renting, some people left the state, some have moved south. It really depends upon, your family situation, your financial situation, your insurance situation, um, a lot of different considerations. But you're talking about like overnight, you couldn't find a place to live. You literally couldn't find it unless you're willing to pay 100% above market value. Now, people might say that's not legal. Agreed, it's not legal. You're still getting rents going up double in 24 hours.
Oof.
And so I understand people can discuss it ethically or morally. I just go, it is what it is. You have to deal with it. It happened to me. I found a place that I wanted to rent. I told my real estate guy right away, I'll take that place. I'll take it. I don't even need to see it. I'll give him a full year deposit. And I got a call back 4 hours later. Uh, the rent's going up 80%. They want 2 years, and there's 52 people putting a bid in.
Oh my God, Roger.
And I said, I'll pass. So there was this tremendous spike in anxiety and fear, especially if you have either a family and you have kids in school, right? School had just started back up. If you can't afford something or you don't have enough insurance, then you're like, well, what do I do? I mean, everybody suffered. Doesn't matter where you are on the socioeconomic. Everyone, as we all know, has our own story and our own grief. So tremendous, tremendous shock to the whole community. And now you can see like a lot of these fields, these homes where their homes were are just now leveled land. And the green trucks and people are coming in, not only taking care of things, but also uh, dealing with a lot of the health issues as well.
So would you say the Green Truck People is that a specific organization or
I will be honest, this organization, I don't know. I haven't been on the ground there for quite some time. There's some people that came by right away, which I had happen with me. I was shoveling, trying to shovel out my place. And I can't tell you, like I couldn't do it. It's the weight, physical weight of everything. Plus the it was unsafe. Things could keep falling.
yeah.
And these fire department guys from up north, they volunteered. They came down and they're like, "Hey, can we help you?" And I have video of it, like four guys, just fire department guys from another fire department volunteering, just helping me shovel stuff out of the goodness of their heart and probably at risk to their own health. And these are young kids, they're in the probably 30s and have families because I talked to them about it. And they're just like, we're here to help. And
Wow.
it's like they're just walking through a bombed out zone saying, how do we help? What do you need? Pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable.
Roger,
And quite common.
what was the time frame between when it happened and when you were allowed back in, and what was the infrastructure in place to either limit or control that?
The fire department controlled it, the police department. I mean, they had, I don't know if it was National Guard out for a little bit in some areas. So they controlled who got in. Eventually, I got a pass to get in, and I was probably there just, I don't know, maybe a week later, 5 days later. Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. It became a blur. The fires were still going more east, but I was trying to get west. And look, the fire department, I think, did a phenomenal job. I really mean this. Like, they are understaffed, under budgeted, under equipped. They're risking their lives. They did everything they could. And so they started to let people go in a little bit at a time. And I was fortunate to get in. Uh, I don't even know how to describe the feeling. You're driving through places that there used to be homes everywhere, life everywhere, and it's all just burned out. I mean, you would see a home that might be 70 square meters, smaller, like an old type of like, beach house. And then you see some that might be 1,000 square meters. Everything's gone. Doesn't matter, rich or poor, fire does not care.
Yeah.
A dear friend who went to evacuate uh, uh, one area, and I called him up. I said, "You need to go," and he was like, "No, no, I know wind patterns. I know fires. I pay attention to this." And I called him back and said, "Look, it's getting really bad out there. We're evacuating it." He's like, "All right, Roger, thank you very much. I got it." And then I called him up the third time, and I won't repeat exactly what I said. I said, nature doesn't care who you are. Nature doesn't care how much money you have. Nature doesn't care about anything you've ever done in your life. Nature doesn't even know you exist. Get out now or you will die. That's what that's what nature is. Nature spares no one intentionally. Nature is just nature. And it doesn't care about race, religion, money. It just goes, right? It's just like water. So in this, here you're just saying like homes, land's been flattened out, a little metal truck in the thing in the middle building out, and slowly but surely, and this is from a couple of months ago, trying to prepare for the future. And what you see in this picture, which for me is personally very interesting, you see all this brown dirt, right? So now a lot of land's been cleaned out, but if you look sort of in the middle right, at like 1 o'clock, you see all these white buildings. That was a development. A gentleman who ran for mayor named Rick Caruso. He built this development. It's a shopping development, and he hired his own fire department. And his development survived completely. It's built to a different code. He had his own fire department, and it not only survived, it survived perfectly intact. Yet the residential portion did not. The residential portion is what the city's responsible for more than anything else, and it's all gone. And you can see it gone all the way to the ocean. But again, what do you see that still exists? You see trees. You see Mother Nature. She wiped out humanity. She did not wipe out nature. This is from Altadena, which also got wiped out. And you just think there's a home to your left that's fine, car in the driveway, and two homes are just literally side by side, just burnt to the end, except for of course, the fireplaces.
We had a big fire down here locally. Oh, I'll go back before we sit with this photo, Roger. If we go back one photo, I won't bother talking about it with this because this is yours. Is that equality and that and the randomness and there was a town called Dunalley that and it was a peninsula not too far from Hobart, and it has a very, very narrow entry and exit point. So once fire got to a certain point, it wasn't physically possible for people to get in and out. And even for rescue people to get them, they ended up having to figure out how to get local peoples and fishermen's boats to try and go out there, and personal people were the ones that ended up doing a lot of the rescuing. And there was another aspect where fires would literally jump absolutely randomly between there's 10 houses in a row that are gone and then bump there's one or two that are fine and then there's five more that are gone and there's no rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. It's sort of this phenomenal equalizer, really attests to the fact he said like nature isn't sitting there thinking who's got more money or who's from what background or what color's their skin or how much money they have or who's got insurance, or it's running on a different sphere. They're all concepts and creations in a way that are just uniquely human. Uh,
Yep.
and when you think about that equality in terms of a very intense and traumatic reminder that, that there is an equal playing field here for all of us, regardless of the constructs that we've created that try and tell each other otherwise. The preciousness of life, the connection, and I guess one of the things I'd like to go into after we go through the images I think we're close to is where identity fits in. How much we wrap up. I'm just sitting here looking around my room, thinking about what's here and what makes me who I am, what gives me a sense of belonging in the world, what gives me a sense of lineage and connection to what I've experienced and done in my life. And a lot of that would disappear physically. And what does that leave you with? And what role does photography have there? I've heard that analogy many times where people will say if you have a fire, and they do this with a lightness of heart, and I don't think they're talking about the physical reality, but it's more a conceptual. What's the first thing, or what are the things you're going to grab to take with you? That's not an uncommon question to ask, and a very, very common answer is the family album
Right.
or the photo books. And when I think of these 67 fires, and some of the most influential figures for me in my life from a photography perspective, even there's two photographers that live just up the hill here. And Olegas Johannes and Peter Dramoskis, and Peter is actually the only photographer in Australian history to ever make the International Hall of Fame. And they've both been influenced by fire and these fires. And Olegas in particular, he lost almost, I think almost pretty much all his photography are very close to it. And those exact fires I was talking about. And he died actually pushing himself really hard, getting out there to try and replace them for the conservation work that he was doing with those images. So there's sort of, where does identity wrap up with our possessions in our home? What are we left with without the physicality of what represents our life? And where does photography fit in and around that? And we've got a very unique window here with your very intense life experience about all of that wrapped up in one big convoluted, tumultuous conversation, really.
I was going to say, because you're raising a lot of important questions and a lot of self-reflection, and it's really important. I always, I mean it. It's really simple at the end. Are we leaving the place better than we got here? And I think ultimately proactive kindness and caring to those you love, those you're close to, and those you don't know. Ultimately, that's our connection is we go, oh, life is better with each other than without each other. Life is better smiling at the stranger who's not really a stranger, is just someone we haven't met yet. Life is better just looking at that tree and realizing it's a symbiotic relationship and we need to enhance that relationship because we gain from it. It's not like it's just a tree. It
Yeah.
creates life for us. And that trees aren't just trees, they're reminders and metaphors about roots and connectivity. I think there's so much that comes out of not only a disaster, but it's also just it's really for me simple is uh, how do I stay connected and how do I give more than I take in a positive, healthy way? And how do I leave behind? Which is really the only thing is how you treat others, because there is that whole butterfly and multiplier effect. So, to me, the fires just remind me that we do get lost, not only in a good way, creating our own book, right, chapter by chapter, but sometimes we get lost in the stuff, the external stuff that's not really heartfelt. It's ego felt. It's insecurity felt. It's about external, like what does it mean to others? What matters is how we are inside and how we are grounded with to me life itself, knowing that we are no really different or better than it's a butterfly, an insect, a lion, a bird, and that ultimately we are the water that's in that pool that you're looking at. We are 70% of that pool. Uh, we're all connected and we're all life. And I think as humans, most of us are just trying to do the best we can with what we have and know. And I think we have to also be compassionate about that too. There's so many unknowns, and people are really doing the best they can. And we need to, for me at least, try to embrace that at the core. Most people are really good people, and uh, and if we could treat each other that way, we're just better off. And if we treat the environment that way too, we're better off. So I just say this last picture, which I was going to show. This is my dog Gemma, who's on the bed behind me. She's a rescue from Taiwan. Uh, I've had her for almost 8 years. She has been through so much with me. I give her so much credit. She came over on a plane and her whole world changed, right? Language, smell, sound, food, people.
Yeah.
And then she came into a new life. And then, that life changed again when I changed my life almost 4 years ago. So she moved to another place with me. And then that place burns down. And then she had to live in temporary housing for a couple of weeks. Then she had to go back to houses she was kind of familiar with. And now she's in a new place in a new neighborhood. And, she's taught me resilience. And she just teaches me what we all want, which is to be loved and to love and to be in the moment, right? Just to be in that moment. And I got to tell you, uh, she's made everything better for me.
Yeah.
I'm completely in love with her, and I feel so fortunate that she and I are together.
Wow.
And she saved me in many regards. She let me cry when I needed to cry. She let me hold her when I needed to feel love and give love, and when I needed to feel vulnerable and be weak. Uh, and then also she reminded me that this too shall pass. And it's true. This too has passed in many regards. And the best part is she's with me, my son's with me, the people I know and I love are okay. And I've learned so many lessons and I've been given so many gifts by not just family and friends, but by strangers. We're no longer strangers. So in a strange way, I'm very thankful for all of it as well. Really thankful because I'm taught the same lesson over and over, like we all are. We know what matters and we forget it. And then we're taught it, we know what matters. And we taught that it's out of our control, embrace what is and be thankful for what is and stay connected to what matters in yourself, with your community, your friends and family, but also with nature. Because we're all going back from whence we came. We're all going back.
Just taking a deep breath here, Roger. You're just giving us so much to reflect on, my friend, without having to go through, the trauma and the loss on one level that you have. Um, you've gifted everybody who connects with the show the opportunity to do that in a way without having to face that, in a gentler, reflective space, which is a much easier path to follow than this when there's that choice is taken away. It's just a reminder to slow down and take that choice. Yeah, my first thought, actually, just looking at this image and all it's about is to have a conversation with a next door neighbor and about fire, about where I live. I live in a fire corridor. I have my hard drives in a fireproof safe over there, which I'm kidding myself if it's actually going to stop anything. And I've been meaning to, do the work to prepare for the reality of that happening.
Yeah,
And the biggest scheme of Earth is a matter of when, not necessarily, this year or the next.
right.
It's going to happen. It's just whether I'm here or not at the time is the only question. And that I haven't done that work properly. I've had it at the back of my mind. I did go buy that safe as part in recognition of that. Um, I try and keep a couple of small things by the door. Where I live has a very, very narrow corridor of one road basically to get out, which could be blocked. So the physical reality is a little bit intensive when it actually happens. There might not be much autonomy about how well I can get out. I've thought about the physical trail through the bush I could get through and how much I could actually take on my bike, which would be the only other way I could actually get out of here. Um, but more thoughtfully, what are the important things here? What have I not documented? What about all the photos I got upstairs of my family I haven't digitized or haven't put online? What about the backups that I haven't done? What about even professionally that I have very little work? And other places, either online or in different properties that will protect my legacy as a photographer. Um,
So I'm going to ask you a question about that
uh,
because I've thought about that.
and that was my next question. Like we haven't even spoken about that aspect of all of this in terms of you as an image maker and your career as an image maker. And
Yeah, I'm not sure for me, this is going to seem like I've tried to feel my way through this. When my time is up, my time is up. I don't have believe in my ego that my work is for me matters all that much afterwards. What matters to me ultimately is that I've been a hopefully the best father my son needs and deserves. That I've been the best friend to my friends, and that I've taken care of my responsibilities and as I define them in the community and other places. I think that's my legacy. My legacy was going to be what people never say that I did, literally. It's going to be how I live in others without anyone ever knowing it. So, when it all burns down, you go, oh, what really, really matters when I strip away as much of my ego as possible. And ego is healthy in many regards, I know that. But sometimes it goes into a less productive place
Yeah.
where you think, oh, how I treat others, how I treat dogs, pets, animals, or nature. That is for me the macro piece. It's what do I leave behind when no one knows I was ever here and or ever existed. And that time's going to happen. It happens to all of us. How do I just have that butterfly ripple effect in ways that I'll never see,
Could
never
you
know?
just elaborate on that, Roger? I'm not so familiar with that concept.
Oh, the butterfly effect?
Yeah.
What's the whole notion that a butterfly will fly in one place on the planet, but all of a sudden it moves air, right? And it changes the flow. And eventually that flow interacts with other flow and energy. And it all becomes a multiplier effect. And that it goes around the world, and you may not see the change in current or path or air. You may not know the origin or the culmination of all the energy moving together, but you've had an impact. And so if we can let go that we have to be the thing that's noticed, or we have to be the ego that everybody remembers, because the truth is nobody remembers. I think of how many people have had buildings named after them or statues made of them. And I'm sure it's around the world. You go, but who are they? Who are they? I mean, obviously they did something, but you think about how much we vest ourselves to be and to leave behind. And I think the best thing to leave behind is honestly kindness with others, time for others, support and enabling others to pursue their dreams.
Yeah.
Uh, so they can make the world better. And that becomes the butterfly effect and the multiplier effect that we'll never see. Because the trees that we're looking at today in America, the redwoods, are ones that people planted for sequoias hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So it's the ability to invest in what you will not be part of literally seeing, but will be part of by the creation process. That to me is the essence of what we can leave that matters.
Yeah, I almost feel a strange lightness of being reflecting on that. Maybe it doesn't matter if those hard drives out there don't carry on after me. You know what and where did it come from that I think like that I even thought that they should. Because they're very tied to my life right now, and they're only so relevant to people and other places and other times anyway. How much meaning have I put on them? And I wouldn't suggest that that's a facetious comment. I think it's a very individualistic.
Yeah.
And I do think people have created bodies of work that have purpose above and beyond their lifetime and can continue to have ripple effects by being accessible and remaining beyond.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I totally do agree with that. And there's a couple of bodies of work of mine that I feel like are hinting into that sphere. And that's not necessarily an ego-driven motivation. It's actually more of a purpose driven motivation, and that I've been in a unique position to do some things that not many people have, and it has positive purpose beyond
And can I
me.
just add, I agree with you. The important thing for me is not to be attached to that outcome. It's wonderful if that becomes the outcome. I agree with you completely. I hope that I've essentially circumnavigated Greenland 3 times in helicopters, you kind of touched on earlier. I believe I'm the only person who's done this once, let alone 3 times. And I think it has possibly scientific value, creative value, and I hope if it does, it does. But I don't want to be vested in that being important to me. I just want to make it accessible and available for people if they choose it to be. So ego is a great motivator, and I think having a legacy is fantastic. It's how, from my perspective, for me, how do I attach to anything? And when a fire takes everything away, almost, you realize attaching to anything of stuff uh, has reason, uh, but also, like everything, it all goes away at some level or another.
Yeah.
That most of this is our thoughts and our minds of what matters, and that's important, right? Because we are our thoughts in many regards, but we can also choose our thoughts as well. Um, and so, for me, this whole experience has been really powerful to continue to learn and grow, and also continue to let go
Uh,
as best as possible.
what an incredibly intense lesson in attachment, Roger, you know. I mean, it's a concept that maybe not everybody understands, and there's a philosophical aspect like Buddhist
Yeah,
that moves into that, you know, and there's a really simple analogy like the Dalai Lama was speaking about happiness and anything where your happiness is relying on something external to yourself, be it a person or thing, is you're just asking for trouble, basically, because you have no control ultimately over things external to your own being, only so
yeah,
much. And you're kidding yourself sometimes. We kid ourselves sometimes how much, say, we do have. And I guess what a phenomenal reminder, and a brutal one, I guess,
yeah,
in a way, and a huge testament to your character, Roger, that you've already in a small time frame, you know, finding the space of positivity around it and offering this, you know, intense window into your own personal experience as a positive reflection, you know, and as an opportunity to reflect and recognize and simplify and actualize the things that do matter in our lives and without having to go through the trauma of it like you have, you know, it's a real gift, you know, and I felt that opportunity when I first had that idea so long ago. I just felt like it was too soon and too fresh, but I just wanted to, I guess, just put that invitation out there for whenever it coalesced into something you felt like would be a positive thing to do. So I certainly feel like this will be something I'll be reflecting on for years to come, actually, and that I will probably personally be acting on very soon in terms of, you know, actualizing and reminding myself of that. You know, my immediate thought is, geez, have I really done enough for my family right now? I do have time that I haven't had before. What can I do? You know, have I contributed to my community the way I want to? You know, do I have, am I being as proactive as I can be in terms of that sort of butterfly element that might be unselfishly contributing to things that are going to ripple on beyond when I'm not here, that, you know, is its own sort of selfless form of legacy in a way. And then, you know, and down to the simple professional realities as well as my clients' work protected, have I done enough to honor them and that contract I have with them? And I'd realizing, geez, I could do a better job of that actually. Because a lot of those images aren't just about me; they're about other causes and places and people's lives and generationally and you know even simple things like because I've done a lot of portrait work over 20, 30 years. I often get people approaching me for images for funerals to honor
right.
their loved ones and people that have gone past. And because I have
Wow.
taken the time to back things up and I haven't said, oh yeah, it's past 7 years, catch you later. I've kept all the older work too. That's often served a purpose and beyond. my own ego as well. And so it's yeah, so much to reflect on, Roger. And I sort of, I was sort of looking forward to this, and I was always also like a tiny bit of anxious too in terms of facing the reality of that level of attachment and what level of responsibility I've taken around my own sort of little sphere and little bubble, and how prepared am I for the reality of what is out my window and what is testimonially, visible even to my eye right now, like that this I'm living in a place that is part of that rhythm and ecosystem that can just ebb and flow and be gone in a day, with a certain combination of events. So it's, yeah, thank you for your courageousness and your vulnerability and your,
No courageousness required, honestly. Like I said, I want to
oh,
thank you. Right now, thank you for inviting me. Truly, I also wanted to like thank again. I know so my son's been amazing through this whole time. I give him a tremendous amount
yeah,
of love because he's a tough time during your junior year of high school. It could be very disruptive. He's found a way to get through it successfully and positively.
oh,
Like I said, friends, my dog. Uh, Look, it's true saying this too shall pass. Uh, and I also believe that tomorrow will be sunny. And my life has been, like most people, a roller coaster, and it's been a great ride. And this is part of it. This will be part of my chapter and part of my book. Uh, it won't define me, but it will illuminate uh, and remind me about what I know matters in life and how to move forward. And honestly, you inviting me to join you was very important. And when you wrote me, I remember I started to cry after because I was very touched by you reaching out to me and caring. And I think that's, for me, one of the most important things in the world is to know that someone sees you, thinks of you, and cares about you. So I genuinely want to thank you for inviting me to join you and to share my part of this journey and my chapter of my book of life today with you.
and I think I never thought it would be the word that I would use to describe this whole experience for me personally, but when you use the word illuminate, I feel like that is the thread of its impact for me. This whole sharing of yours, Roger, it's illuminated the areas of my life that are saying, "Have you, are you clear about what's important to you?" And it's shone a light on those areas where it's maybe that's not doing so well, and it's illuminated the areas that this is what's important to me. And I invite everyone to use this as an opportunity for illumination for yourself.
And
Uh,
and
your
and
sphere
I
and
would
your
have one
world
thing.
and your community and your family, like where does the light shine the brightest and what's the most important? And if that's the simplest thing that happens out of the sharing, that is an incredible gift that Roger's given us.
Again, thank you for inviting me to join you and to share this with you and everyone else. I deeply appreciate it, and it means a lot to me.
And I guess also being mindful of the role of photography and the challenging moments and the traumatic places in the world. I was literally reading an article came out yesterday of a Reuters journalist who had to quit because there's been like 245 journalists have been killed in the Palestine, And I think about what they've offered to illuminate the world on the dark side and giving their lives for it, like there are courageous people out there using imagery for a purpose beyond them. By pointing them at the tough and hard things and places they experience in life, and that is an important role as a photographer that we can choose to use at times. And sometimes it's thrust upon us, and sometimes there's an invitation to be there. And it takes a little bit of extra courage, I think, to do it. But it can be a purpose beyond us. So maybe we can all feel a little bit more mindfully about the role that we have as image makers and the gift that we have as image makers too, to tell stories. And that if we've noticed that you've always just been drawn to the beautiful side of things, that there's a beauty in the trauma of life too, and the healing and the transformation. And that's a word that came up before when you were talking about fire, Roger. And as a purely elemental energy, it's transformative. It transforms energy from one form into another. It translates matter into form. And from a metaphysical point of view, it's a powerful metaphor for moving from one space to another, or letting go of certain things and ending up somewhere else. It's sort of, that's, I'm not trying to sound, facetious or light about it, but it's a powerful force of transformation. And I guess, I'm witnessing and listening to a transformation for you in your life and your identity and your sense of belonging and home and family and all of these tens of thousands of people that have been, going through this journey now. And I hope, that all those people over there in the community is wrapped around them as much as they can, and they're all growing and becoming better human beings from the experience of not only of the giving and the supporting of others too,
Right.
um, and that's where, in a strange way, I feel like humanity shines the brightest. Often is when such intense equalizing forces strip away the myth of what we feel like we've been caught up as important and simplifies what actually is. Um, and that's the hidden and brutal gift in traumatic experiences like this. Oh, well, I feel like we should probably give ourselves time for a go for a walk in the park right now, Roger.
Yeah,
Better,
I appreciate it. No, I think you're right. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to learn with you, learn from you, to share. Um, and I again appreciate you just caring.
yeah, yeah. No, I was certainly, that was my motivation. Yeah, it was just a sense of, I was thinking of you, my brother, and I can't even imagine what you're going there. And this might be a strange even thought to have right now, but if in some way, shape, or form down the track this feels like a healing space or a positive thing to do, then please feel free. And that was, just something I recognized that this show could represent in a certain moment. And I'm very glad I reached out, and I'm very glad you've taken the opportunity to respond in such a beautifully thoughtful way that has given a lot to all of us. So thank you, my brother.
All right. All the best. Take care. And thank you again.
So I'll sign off the show now. So I'm definitely got a bit of time up my sleeve now. I'm not running away to any major countries anytime soon, I don't think. A small chance of maybe Bhutan in November, but I'm not sure. But I would like to take this opportunity for moments like this, to be a little bit more mindful and thoughtful about what I can bring, what platforms, what people, what humans, what causes could benefit from having a conversational platform like this that we can present in a thoughtful visual form. So stay tuned, folks, and see you soon. Thanks again, my beautiful brother from another mother.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. All the best to you. Bye bye.
All right, bye bye.